Welcome back to the S&T podcast. Today we are back in the SEC going over another heavyweight matchup. There's been a lot of them this year, and it's going to be more important games coming down the stretch. And this week we have Texas going to Georgia. Number 10, or technically right now number 11 Texas. AP poll has them at 10. Is probably going to move with the college football playoff rankings coming out tonight. I don't imagine Georgia moving, but number 5 Georgia at home, number 10 Texas. I'll let Cezanne kick it off for us.
Well, thank you for that great intro there, Tom. Yes, we have a very exciting SEC showdown this weekend. We've had a lot of them this season. The SEC continues to prove their point in being a gauntlet week after week. You know, their favorite thing to say about the SEC is that, oh, there's no easy weeks in this conference. Oh, there's no, let up weeks in this conference. Even though I just saw Ole Miss play the Citadel. So, don't get me started about that. But anyways, we have a really good one between two heavyweight teams, as you mentioned. Two teams that are looking to get back to the playoff, just like they did last season. The Georgia Bulldogs at home in Athens, hosting the Texas Longhorns. So we saw these two teams play twice last year. If you forgot, they met in the regular season. They played in Austin. Texas was hosting that game. The first game was really good. We saw the bottles getting thrown on the field and all of that, so there was a added aspect to that game, some extra unforeseen events in that game, some questionable calls and all that. So that was a really good one. And then we saw them meet again in the SEC championship later on down the road. Georgia won again, so Georgia won both times. But the second time, did it go to overtime the second time, or was it like walk off touch? Do you remember, Tom?
Let me find that for you.
I believe it went to overtime, but either way, it was a really close one. The second matchup, I remember Gunnar Stockton let him down the field because Carson Beck was injured. He got injured in like the last regular season game, so Gunnar Stockton was starting for them in that game last season, and he ended up leading Georgia to a big win over Texas, got them the first round bye in the playoff, and basically knocked Texas down to the number 5 seed because you remember Texas only had one loss going to that game to Georgia. They lost to Georgia for a second time. They ended up getting bumped down to 5 where they had to play Clemson in the first round. So just a very interesting matchup because of what happened last season between these two teams. So very excited to see them meet for a third time already. Texas has only been part of the SEC for 2 years now, and they've already met 3 times. So this is pretty interesting to see that. Georgia has
Yeah,
been
I was
go.
just wanted sorry to interrupt, but just off your question. So Georgia beat Texas in overtime. Texas started with the ball, kicked a field goal, and then Georgia scored a touchdown to win 22-19. Texas was ranked number 2, Georgia was ranked number 5, and they basically flip-flopped standings after that. So that was the SEC championship last year.
Yes, sir. Thank you for that, Tom. Our statistician there, our stat guy. Yes. Uh,
Yeah, something. Yeah, it's kind of something like that. Yeah.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Appreciate you, Tom. Yes, my memory is like an elephant's. I remember these things pretty well. So, yes, overtime last season. So, Texas really wants to win this one because, of course, they lost the first two. Definitely don't want to lose 3 in a row because basically at that point you have to admit that they're better than you. You know what I mean? I feel like in anything, if you lose to somebody 3 times in a row, you go 0 for 3. You basically have to admit that you are now the lesser opponent of whatever you're playing. So Texas definitely doesn't want to lose a third time to the Bulldogs. I was starting to talk about Georgia just because Georgia has been very shaky this season. We've seen this from them before, but this season seems to be even a little bit more shaky. They just struggle to win games week after week. Last season they showed us their dominance, showed us that they can still be that Georgia team that we expect them to be when they beat Mississippi State last week, but prior, just struggling to win games, one possession games here and there. It was starting to seem like, can we trust this team in the playoff? I know it's Georgia, but can we trust this team that we see playing week after week in the playoffs? So I don't know. Georgia's going to have to prove that they can win big games like that in the postseason this week when they take on Texas. Texas, on the other hand, Texas is kind of having a, how would you call it, a resurrection? They're having a resurrection. We thought they were down and out early in the season when they were not playing well. They lost a couple games early to Ohio State and Florida, and they were just looking very shaky themselves. Well, it seems like they've started to turn it around. They're still not really looking like the team we saw last year, like Texas last year, but they're starting to really pick it up. Arch Manning's playing better. The offense is starting to click. The defense is really standing out now. So they're looking like a better team. The thing about Texas is, though, they're still on the brink because if they lose one more game, I don't think they have a path to the playoffs. So it's basically win or go home from this point on. And so far, they've done that against lesser opponents, but now they have a real big dog against Georgia. So if they win this game, Texas is definitely in the driver's seat when it comes to the playoff because this game alone will elevate them to top 10 for sure. And then, you know, especially if they can beat A&M later on in the season, those are two really big matchups for them. I don't know if they have to win both. If they win one of them and then lose the other one like closely, they'll definitely have an argument for being that three-loss SEC team that gets in. But winning both those games will definitely guarantee them a spot. So that's what they're aiming for. It starts this week against Georgia. It's on the road. It's going to be a really tough environment. But if Texas can win this one, they can definitely have better hopes for that regular season finale against the Aggies. So in my prediction, I do think I'm going to take Georgia just because they're at home. If Texas was at home, I'd probably take Texas, but I just think the home atmosphere and just the fact that it's the Bulldogs and no one leaves Athens with an easy win, if you win at all. Like no one leaves Georgia with an easy win, so you're going to have to come and play your A game. You can't make mistakes. You're going to have to take those punches and keep punching back. But I don't see them taking down Georgia in their house. So give me the Bulldogs. Let me swing it over to you, Tom. What do you think about this really good matchup right here?
Yeah, I mean, I like everything you said as well. Texas being the underdog, Arch Manning is back, but he had a rough start to the season, so I'm kind of interested to see how Arch Manning kind of handles this game. Texas coming off their last win was against Vanderbilt, which they're coming off a bye week this week, so last game they played was 2 weeks ago almost. The week before that and the week before that, they went into overtime against, again, like you said, lesser opponents. But they handled Oklahoma nicely. Sorry to bring that up, but I think that Texas can play well against good teams, and so I think that they'll bring what they need to bring to this game in Athens. But yeah, I kind of like what you said. I think Georgia's just a gritty team. I don't think Georgia's a team that's going to blow everybody out of the water this year, but I think if if Georgia wins, obviously they're a lock for the playoffs, in my opinion, even if they lose to Georgia Tech. But Texas, like you said, this is one that they need. They absolutely need it. So I'm interested to see how Arch plays, how Texas plays in general, going into a hostile environment. To finish off the season, they have Arkansas and Texas A&M, and like you said, if they want that Texas A&M game to mean anything, they need to beat Georgia this week. And honestly, where I disagree with you is when you said that if they win one of the two games against Georgia or Texas A&M, that they might have a chance or a path to the playoffs. I'd like to see the playoff committee hold down on their standard that 3 losses, you're done. There's plenty of other good 2-loss teams, whether that's the ACC, the Big 12, the Big 10. I think that there's going to be enough good 2-loss teams this year that deserve a spot over a 3-loss SEC team. And I guess you could call me a little bit biased because, being a Nebraska fan, I lean more towards the Big 10 and the Big 12. ACC, I don't really know how they're going to finish out the season, but that's a whole nother story. This week, Texas at Georgia. Give me Georgia. It's going to be a close one, I think. Texas has athletes. They've clawed their way back. If you remember, I believe Texas was unranked at one point this year. So for them to even be back in the conversation at all is impressive. So you can't discount that. Good for Texas, and I still think Georgia comes away with this one. But it wouldn't surprise me if Texas pulls it out because, like I said, I think it's going to be a close game and it's going to come down to one of the last drives. And I know I said that about Georgia and Mississippi State last week, and I was very wrong, but I think this week is going to be a little different. So give me Georgia in a close one. But that's all I have about that. Do you have any other final thoughts?